When you ask someone to picture an addict, there is a very specific, almost cinematic image that usually pops into people's heads.
Oh, absolutely. It's the stereotypical rock bottom.
Right. It's the person who has lost absolutely everything. They've lost their job, their housing, their health is visibly failing. It's obvious, it's tragic, and it's just playing out right in the open.
Yeah, that's the cultural narrative we've all been sold.
Exactly. But what if I told you that for a massive and growing number of people, addiction doesn't look like that at all? What if it looks like the executive flawlessly closing $1 million deal or, the lead engineer deploying code at 2 a.m.?
Or the parent meticulously organizing the school bake sale.
Yes. Today, we are dismantling everything you think you know about addiction. We are pulling apart the clinical reality of this modern, almost entirely invisible phenomenon known as functional addiction.
And we're going to look at how modern medicine is evolving to treat it without, detonating the lives these people have worked so hard to build.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to give you accurate, eye-opening information drawn directly from clinical resources, program guides, and the synthesized knowledge of 22 years of recovery expertise from New Life Recovery Centers out in San Jose, California.
Because when you examine the reality of who is seeking treatment today,
Yeah.
you realize the most dangerous addictions are often the ones wrapped in the outward appearance of absolute perfection.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we really need to define our terms here. We hear the phrase functional addiction a lot, but there's also this newer term popping up everywhere called gray area drinking.
Right, they aren't the exact same thing, though they certainly overlap.
Yeah, and I think most people don't know the difference, or they just assume gray area drinking means having a little too much on the weekends. But what does it actually mean to live in that gray area?
That is a crucial distinction to make. Gray area drinking is exactly what it sounds like. It is the vast, murky space between the occasional purely social drinker on one end of the spectrum and the severe rock-bottom alcoholic on the other.
So it's the middle ground.
Exactly. A gray area drinker isn't crashing their car or getting DUIs. They might even take a month off drinking entirely like dry January, just to prove to themselves that they can.
Oh, wow. Like a test of willpower to prove there isn't a problem.
Yes. But the reality is, the drinking is no longer truly social or healthy. It has become a necessary crutch. They frequently drink more than they intend to, they wake up with a lingering sense of regret or anxiety, and they spend a significant amount of mental energy thinking about when they get to have that next drink.
Like an internal negotiation. I won't drink until Friday, but then Wednesday rolls around.
Right. It's a quiet, internal negotiation that happens every single day.
So it's that creeping realization that the substance is taking up way too much real estate in your brain, even if nobody else sees it. Which brings us to functional addiction.
Which is taking that hidden struggle and compounding it with chemical dependency.
Yeah. When I think about someone holding down a demanding job while secretly battling an addiction, it makes me think of an analogy. It's like an app running in the background of your phone.
Oh, I like that.
Right. You look at the screen, and it looks perfectly normal. Your emails are sending, your calendar is synced, everything is functioning. But that hidden background app is quietly draining the battery.
Yes, pulling all the processing power.
Exactly. And the phone itself is getting hotter and hotter. Everything seems fine on the outside to the casual observer, but the internal system is inevitably headed for a complete hardware crash.
That is a remarkably accurate way to visualize it.
Yeah.
Particularly regarding the internal temperature of the system. Because the clinical definition of functional addiction isn't about what you have lost externally. At least, not yet.
Because they still have the job and the house.
Right. The outward scaffolding of their life, the mortgage, the career, the marriage is still completely intact. But it involves a fundamental internal loss of control. The tolerance is increasing.
Meaning they need more just to feel normal.
Exactly. The brain requires more of the substance just to reach baseline. And, most importantly, they continue to use, despite experiencing negative mental or physical consequences.
Well, what kind of consequences?
They might be having heart palpitations, severe insomnia, or just crushing morning panic attacks. But they still reach for this substance the very next evening. The foundation is quietly eroding while the facade gets a fresh coat of paint every morning.
Man, that sounds exhausting.
What's fascinating here is how deeply hidden this disease really is, and how much the surrounding environment acts as an accomplice.
An accomplice? How so?
The progression of functional addiction absolutely thrives in the shadows of success. When you look at the clinical data, a clear pattern emerges around high-pressure hubs. Take Northern California, specifically the Bay Area and Silicon Valley.
Oh, yeah. The epicenter of hustle culture.
You have this incredibly potent, almost toxic cocktail of long hours, an astronomical cost of living, and an immense, relentless pressure to continuously innovate and succeed.
Right. But I actually want to push back on this a little bit, or at least I want to play devil's advocate for the culture we're talking about here.
Sure. Go ahead.
Because in a place like Silicon Valley or Wall Street or any really high stakes environment, biohacking and intense stress management are practically job requirements.
Oh, they're completely normalized.
Exactly. If you are surviving a brutal 60 or 80-hour work week, having 3 IPAs every night, or finding some chemical way to just turn your brain off, isn't seen as an addiction. It's viewed as a survival tactic.
Yes, it's just considered blowing off steam.
Right. So if an executive is just using something to temporarily numb the noise and fall asleep so they can perform again the next day, where is the actual objective line between just blowing off steam and a chemical dependency? How do they even know they've crossed it?
Well, it's the most common defense mechanism we see, and I mean, it's a completely understandable one. But the neurobiology of the human brain doesn't care about your job title.
It doesn't care about your equity or your corporate culture.
Not at all. The line is crossed when the behavior stops being a choice and becomes a neurological compulsion. Addiction rarely happens overnight. It's a slow neurological creep.
So it's gradual.
Very. When you continuously use a substance, whether it's alcohol or a drug, to manage profound stress, trauma, or burnout, you are artificially flooding the brain's reward system with dopamine.
Giving yourself an unnatural high.
Right. And over time, the brain responds to that artificial flood by down-regulating its own natural dopamine production.
So your baseline drops. You literally lose the ability to feel normal, let alone happy, without the chemical.
Precisely. You aren't drinking or using to get high anymore. You're doing it just to stop feeling awful. The cravings increase. Your impulse control, which is governed by the prefrontal cortex, is biologically diminished.
And suddenly you're trapped.
Eventually, you find you simply cannot cope with your daily life, your emotions, or your stress without the substance. The invisible line is crossed when the substance shifts from being an occasional release valve to becoming the primary, mandatory coping mechanism for your existence.
Here's where it gets really interesting and honestly quite terrifying. Because we aren't just talking about a few extra glasses of Pinot Noir at the end of the day anymore.
No, the substances have evolved.
There is a massive modern trap that is specifically snaring the high-functioning, optimization-obsessed professional. And that's the rise of designer drugs and so-called legal highs.
Yes, the landscape of what people are actually consuming has shifted dramatically over the last decade. And it has caught a lot of highly intelligent people completely off guard.
The dark irony here is staggering. You have these high-achieving professionals, right? They wouldn't dream of going out and buying street drugs.
Absolutely not. They consider themselves incredibly health conscious.
Right. They are obsessed with optimizing their performance, monitoring their macros, tracking their sleep. So they go online looking for nootropics, cognitive enhancers, or herbal supplements.
They read a few forums on Reddit, order something legally with a credit card, and they think they are biohacking their way to a promotion.
Exactly. They are completely unaware that they are stepping right into a severe, devastating addiction trap that rivals illicit narcotics. We're talking about things like synthetic cannabinoids.
Often sold under names like Spice or K2.
Yeah, and synthetic cathinones, which are widely known as bath salts, and then these incredibly deceptive substances like kratom and T-neptine.
And the marketing for these substances is dangerously brilliant. They are sold in brightly colored packages at convenience stores or through these really sleek websites, marketing them as dietary supplements, research chemicals, or mood brighteners.
They make it look like you're buying a vitamin.
Yes. Because they exist in this legal gray area, or they are easily shipped right to your front door, the consumer subconsciously assumes they are safe. But the medical reality is entirely different.
Right, because chemically, what is actually happening in the brain? Explain the mechanism, because I don't think people realize what they're actually swallowing when they take something like T-neptine.
Let's use T-neptine as the perfect example. It is often marketed online as a nootropic or dietary supplement to boost your mood and improve cognitive focus.
Sounds great on paper.
Sure does.
Boss.
But chemically, T-neptine binds directly to the exact same opioid receptors in your brain as heroin or oxycodone.
Wait, really? It's an opioid?
Biologically, yes. The high achiever thinks they are taking a cutting-edge productivity supplement to get through their inbox, but their brain is forming a full-blown opioid dependency.
Oh, wow. That's terrifying.
Kratom operates on very similar pathways. And with the synthetic cannabinoids or cathinones, clandestine chemists are constantly tweaking a single molecule just to bypass current DEA regulations.
Just to keep it technically legal.
Exactly. So you have absolutely no idea what toxic compounds your liver is actually trying to metabolize. The chemical hooks are incredibly deep, the withdrawal is agonizing, and the health effects like sudden seizures or acute organ failure are wildly unpredictable.
So we have this perfect catastrophic storm. We have immense environmental pressure to succeed, a disease that naturally hides behind achievement, and easily accessible, highly addictive synthetic substances disguised as productivity hacks.
It is a recipe for disaster.
Which brings us to the collateral damage, because if the coworkers don't see it, if this person is still winning Employee of the Month who actually bears the brunt of this,
It's the family.
this is why this matters to you, the listener. It's about looking closely at your own inner circle. Because it is the family on the front line, the partners, the spouses, the kids. They're the ones who experience the system failure first.
They absolutely are. The functional addict has a finite amount of energy, and they spend every last drop of it maintaining the flawless facade at work.
Keeping the plates spinning.
Right. By the time they pull into their driveway and walk through the front door, they are entirely depleted. The mask finally slips.
So what does that actually look like? What are the warning signs?
The warning signs are rarely a sudden inability to pay the mortgage. They're much more intimate. You see profound emotional withdrawal. You see a sudden, fierce secrecy.
Like hiding bottles.
Hiding substances, yes. But also, maybe they are suddenly incredibly defensive about their phone, hiding their credit card statements, or just disappearing into the garage for long stretches of time.
Just isolating themselves.
Yes. You see unpredictable, volatile mood swings, growing conflict over incredibly minor things, and rapidly changing priorities, where acquiring and using the substance always quietly wins out over being present with their family.
It seems incredibly difficult for a spouse to spot this, though. I mean, if my partner is working 70 hours a week at a tech startup, I'm just going to assume their mood swings and their withdrawal are simply from total exhaustion.
Which makes perfect sense.
Right. I think they are just burnt out. How can a family member distinguish between regular stress-induced exhaustion, which we all experience, and a hidden substance issue? Where is the actual line between burnout and addiction?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the differentiator isn't just the presence of a bad mood or fatigue. It is the specific pattern of behavior surrounding it.
What kind of pattern?
It is the escalating secrecy. It's the intensely defensive, almost hostile reaction when the topic of their drinking or their supplements is even gently brought up. Exhausted people generally want to rest and connect.
They want support.
Exactly. Functionally addicted people want to isolate and consume. But the most critical differentiator is that emotional reliance we discussed earlier. Is this substance the only way they can regulate their mood?
If they can't have it, do they fall apart?
Yes. And when families are dealing with this, they often feel profoundly isolated. They start doubting their own reality. Everyone in the community thinks their spouse is a superstar. But behind closed doors, the family is tiptoeing around a volatile, emotionally absent stranger.
Man, that isolation has to be agonizing. And when a family is trapped in that isolation, the biggest fear is that getting help means detonating the life they've built.
The fear of losing everything.
Exactly. The functional addict thinks, if I admit I have a problem, if I go to rehab, I lose my career, I lose my reputation, I lose everything.
But the reality of modern clinical treatment has completely evolved past that binary choice.
Yes. You do not have to wait for the external collapse. You do not have to hit rock bottom to justify getting help. And this is why the model used by places like New Life Recovery Centers in San Jose is so fascinating.
They've engineered their clinical approach specifically around solving this exact barrier for this demographic.
They are an incredible model for how modern medicine is treating this. New Life Recovery Centers has 22 years of successful, holistic, evidence-based treatment behind them.
And importantly, they hold the highest level of accreditation from CRF International.
Which is a big deal, right?
It's massive. That isn't just a plaque on the wall. It means they are operating at the absolute peak of clinical excellence, constantly audited for the highest standards of care.
And what is so vital about their approach is that it isn't a one-size-fits-all mandate. They aren't telling every executive they have to lock themselves away in the woods for a year.
Right, because that's just not practical for most working professionals.
They have a comprehensive spectrum of treatment options tailored exactly to where a person is in their life and the severity of their chemical dependency. Let's break down what that actually looks like.
Sure. They offer medically supervised alcohol and drug detox, which is critical.
Because withdrawing from things like alcohol or synthetic opioids can be physically dangerous.
It's extremely dangerous. It requires medical oversight. After that, they have fully inpatient residential treatment for when someone truly needs to unplug and step completely away from their toxic environment to heal.
But then they have these incredibly adaptable outpatient options.
Yes, the outpatient models are where the paradigm really shifts for the functional addict. They offer PHP, which stands for a partial hospitalization program.
How does that work?
Imagine needing intensive daily clinical therapy to rewire your brain's response to stress, but still being able to go home and sleep in your own bed at night. That's what PHP looks like.
And it goes even further for the working professional. They offer a Superflex IOP.
Which is an intensive outpatient program.
Right. And a virtual IOP, which is a telehealth treatment available to eligible California residents. Plus, they make the logistics easy by accepting most major insurance.
That's a huge relief for families.
We're talking in-network, PPOs, EAPs, and union programs. We should note quickly, they cannot accept Medicare, Medicaid, or Medi-Cal, but for the demographic we are discussing, their insurance compatibility is incredibly broad.
So they've really removed the logistical hurdles.
So what does this all mean? It means if you are a functional addict, your absolute biggest terror that getting help requires dropping all the plates you've been frantically spinning is no longer a valid excuse.
Absolutely, the excuses are gone.
Options like the Superflex IOP or the virtual IOP are absolute game changers. You could literally log off your final Zoom meeting of the day and seamlessly transition into high-level, specialized clinical care.
It allows a person to get life-saving help while still maintaining the daily responsibilities they're so desperately trying to hold on to.
Right. It meets them where they are.
That flexibility is the key that unlocks the door for so many people. It removes the primary psychological barrier to entry. But we have to be clear, flexibility in scheduling does not mean a lack of clinical depth.
These programs aren't just a weekly chat.
No, not at all. They include rigorous therapy and relapse prevention. Because if you just take the substance away from a Silicon Valley executive without changing anything else, they are going to inevitably relapse.
Because the stress is still there.
Exactly. The programs at New Life are actively treating the underlying root causes. The severe burnout, the chronic anxiety, the unresolved trauma that is driving the behavior in the first place.
They are treating the whole person.
They are teaching neuroplasticity. You are learning entirely new, sustainable ways to cope with that high-pressure environment so that your brain no longer demands the substance to survive it.
It is about giving you your life back, not just taking the drug away. And if any of this is resonating with you right now, if you are looking at your own life, your own evening routines, or the life of someone in your inner circle and recognizing that hidden battery drain we talked about earlier, you need to take action.
You really do. The system is overheating, and you do not have to wait for it to crash.
Call 408-297-1182 today for a free confidential consultation today. Let me give you that number one more time. Write it down. Call 408-297-1182. Stop pretending the background app isn't destroying the hardware.
This raises an important question, and it's a thought I want to leave you to mull over today.
What's that?
We touched on gray area drinking earlier. The clinical insight is that sometimes the gray area isn't just a warning sign. It is simply the place where healthier choices are waiting to begin.
Oh, I love that framing. So what if your ultimate goal isn't just surviving the daily grind without collapsing? What if the goal is actually reclaiming the genuine joy, the deep restorative sleep, and the authentic human connection that living in that gray area has so quietly stolen from you?
It's completely possible to get it all back. Close the hidden app, let the system cool down. Thank you so much for exploring this with us on today's deep dive. We'll see you next time.